Learning the adventures of Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai as taught us by the Gemara in Shabbos, Tractate Shabbos 33b. And the Gemara has been speaking about a larger story. We're entering with the arrival of Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. The Gemara says, D'yasvei Rebbi Yehuda v'Rebbi Yossi v'Rebbi Shimon v'Yasiv Yehuda ben Gerim Gabayu. And we're sitting, Rebbi Yehuda, Rebbi Yossi, Rebbi Shimon, and we're sitting Yehuda ben Gerim with them. And Yehuda ben Gerim, says Rashi, is a son of converts. Both his father and his mother were converts. And this opening is a introduction to not only four people in a story, but four mindsets, four personalities, four approaches to life. And we will learn as we go through each one of them the lessons that we can learn for ourselves. The first one is Rebbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Pasach Rebbi Yehuda v'amar, opened Rebbi Yehuda and said, Kamanoim ma'asem shel umazu, how pleasant are the deeds of this nation. Says Rashi, this nation, Romaim, the Romans. Rebbi Yehuda himself didn't say the Romans. He said this nation, kept it generic. Tiknu shvakim, they enacted markets. Tiknu sharim, they enacted bridges. Tiknu mechatzos, they enacted bathhouses. And the depth, I think, of this personality, this approach is, as is said by the first word of introduction to Rebbi Yehuda. Pasach Rebbi Yehuda v'amar. Rebbi Yehuda is about opening, about initiating, about being positive, about being proactive. Rebbi Yehuda is a proactive, positive person who looks for the good. And although it's about the Romans, he doesn't keep it specific. He says, Umazu, let's be generic. Let's be expansive. Let's be open to the good that we can find in people and in nations. And he says there are three goods that he finds. Markets, of course, is a place where people can benefit each other with trade. Bridges are an opportunity to connect with each other, to meet. And bathhouses connect to self, that one can keep clean and hygienic. Let's look at the positive, the benefits that can be had. The second person is Rebbi Yossi. So the Gemara, Rebbi Yossi shasak. Rebbi Yossi was silent. Rebbi Yossi starts with Rebbi Yossi. Rebbi Yossi has to contemplate. He has to be cautious, and he's conflicted. And so therefore, he deactivates. He keeps quiet to think about this. Not simple. There might be a mismatch here between who they are and what they do. And therefore, he takes a step back. Third one is Rebbi Yehuda, Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. Nene Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai v'amar. Answered Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai and said, all that they enacted, they did not enact other than for the needs of themselves. They enacted markets to place in them harlots. Bathhouses, to pleasure in them themselves. Bridges, bridges to take from them, through them, tolls or taxes. What is the mindset of Rebbi Shimon here? And I think what Rebbi Shimon focuses on is he reflects, he responds, as the Gemara said, Nene Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai v'amar. Responded Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai and said, answered Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai and said. He's responding, he's reflecting, he's being reactive. And he's reacting and he's saying, but what does this say about the self? Where's the self, the true self? Where's the motivation coming from? And he finds a negative motivation. And he changes the order from what Rebbi Yehuda had said. He says, keeps the first one the same, that the markets are there for harlotry. And he keeps that first because that's the biggest corruption of self. That is complete self-depravity. Then puts the next level of problems with self, which is the bathhouses. because to indulge in bathhouse is not a corruption, but it's an overindulgence of self. And then the third one, which is the least one, puts last, is the bridges, because there's nothing really wrong with putting bridges in so that you can charge tolls. But the problem there is that there's a misprioritization of self. Do I build bridges so that I can charge taxes or tolls, or do I charge taxes so that I can build bridges? So they got it wrong, but it's the third, and that's the order. So Rebbi Shimon is reactive as to where's the self. What are they reflecting about themselves? And the fourth personality is Yehuda ben Gerim. Says the Gemara, Halach Yehuda ben Gerim v'sipet ivreim v'nishma'u l'malchus. Went Rebbi Yehuda ben Gerim, and he teared over their words, and they were heard to the kingship. And Rashi points out that he didn't intend to, he was telling it to his students or his father and mother, not to inform them to the authorities, but it was heard through his hands to the authorities. And the message of this personality is that he's not adding in anything new. He's giving over what he heard from others. He's an amplifier. He's just making more of what was previously. He's not making any contribution. Well, if you're amplifying, so this is the amplification. And concludes the Gemara, this part of the Gemara. Amru, they said, Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda, She'ilo, that was uplifting. Yes, Ale will be uplifted. He will be the person who's magnified. He will be amplified from being a speaker of positive ideas to being a speaker to many people. He'll be the Rosh HaMedabrim. He'll be given a platform to say and initiate and be proactive and be positive. Yosi Sheshasak, Rabbi Yosi was silent, who was contemplative, who was reserved, who was deactivated. He will be exiled to Tzipoiri. He will become irrelevant. He will be excluded. Rabbi Shimon Shigino, referring to Rabbi Shimon, who was critical, who devalued what he saw in the Romans. Yehareg, he will be killed. His own value, his own self will be devalued. Some component of his environment, of his community, or those around him, where he's found the Malchus, will want to get rid of the self called Rebbi Shimon. His own self is devalued. And these, I think, are the four personalities that the Gemara wants to teach us and that we have to learn. We have to realize the value of a Rebbi Yehuda, of Pasach, Rebbi Yehuda v'Amar, Kama Noim, Ma'asem Shel Umazu, to be positive, to be proactive. And the benefits of that is we'll have an opportunity to be more so. But if we deactive, we'll be rendered redundant, irrelevant. And if we are reactive, we will be made to be devalued. The self will be devalued. And if we are post-active, so then we'll be just amplifying that which was already there. And who knows what that would lead to. This is the introduction that we have to the adventures of Rebbi Shimon, where he finds himself, because he looked to be critical at the self of others, his own self was looked critically, and he's on the run for his life.